Welcome into Candlestick Chronicles, a 49ers podcast on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Kyle Madsen. I write about the 49ers over at NinersWire.com, part of the USA Today Sports Media Group. Joining me right now, Chris Biederman of the Sacramento Bee. And we're going to tell you about our friends at Lamb Chops. Shout out to Lamb Chops, sglambchops.com. Candlestick20 is the promo code. Get 20% off your order. And the homies at Lamb Chops had us fitted out at our event this weekend at the brewery.
The sweatpants I had on were the perfect.
You looked so dope. You looked so cool.
I don't know about that, but they were the perfect.
Yeah, you did.
They were the perfect weight for a cool evening up in the North Bay. Fall is here, and you're going to want to load up.
Cool, not cold.
Cool, not cold, but it wasn't cold because we were fitted out in our Lamb Chops. Although you were wearing shorts.
Yeah, I went with the sweat shorts. Maybe my favorite article of clothing right now. They're just the black sweat shorts. Got the Lamb Chops logo. It's got the zippered pockets with the cleavers on them for the zippers, and of course the drawstrings I think are a cool look, nice little accessory. And then I had the Shepherd Goods hoodie on. It's the dark green hoodie. It's got the little lamb logo right at the top of the chest. Very, very sick. I liked it a lot. Got a lot of compliments on it. A lot of people asking me where I got it. So I let them know. sglambchops.com, baby. Promo code Candlestick20. Get that 20% off. Fit yourself out.
They got a whole bunch of new stuff coming out for the fall. So
Can't
definitely
wait.
be on that.
That fall collection is going to be sick.
Yes.
Can't wait. sglambchops.com. Follow them on Instagram at sglambchops. Promo code Candlestick20 for 20% off your order right now. We're also sponsored by Cooperage Brewing. Shout out to Cal. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to everybody who has a hand in putting our live event together. It was unbelievable once again and went off without a hitch. Shout out to everybody who pulled up and took part in the pod. It was such a fun time. And honestly, that's becoming the thing I look forward to the most every single year.
And shout out to Rod Brooks, man. Rod was amazing. Just
the man.
So much energy, so much knowledge. The guy's mic, his voice just booms through the speakers. No, he's great, man. It's so fun. It was fun to be in Sonoma County with a Sonoma County resident. And
I felt like we could have talked for another hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. But we had things to do, places to be, people to see.
Yeah. Can I look? Okay, I know our job. I mean, we're sponsored by Cooperage, and CooperageBrewing.com is the website. You can order beer there. If you're over 21 and in the state of California, they will one-day ship beer to you. It's the best. You're sitting at home, and then beer arrives at your doorstep. It's the best way to acquire beer. But I was drinking Candlestick Chronicles all night, obviously. But at last call, I went, yo, Cal. I've not had a Keg Slayer yet. Hook me up with one of those. And I gotta it never misses. Keg Slayer is so freaking good.
All of their when I went on Sunday, needed a little hair of the dog.
Yeah.
What definitely went with Keg Slayer. It was there for a little bit and it was perfect. Just a phenomenal beverage. So yeah, shout out to everyone at Cooperage. It's a great place. The vibes are great. The crowds are always awesome. People are amazing. It seems like there's something new there every year, whether it's like a piece of art or a TV or a food truck. Man, I'm a little bit bummed I didn't get to partake in the Maine Lobster food truck they had for our event, but
I didn't either.
A little busy, showed up a little late, but it's all good. It was a lot of fun. Shout out to Cooperage, and we very much appreciate working with them for the third year in a row.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe some more stuff on deck. TBD on that. CooperageBrewing.com, though, that's for sure happening right now. So get there, go to the brewery. It's one of my favorite places to hang. And my favorite beer. All right, let's talk about, Chris, you asked an interesting question. And we're going to talk about it on the pod. Are the 49ers the best team in the NFL? Let's dive in. Hey, real quick before we dive into this 49ers thing, If
Mhm.
you see me like kind of freaking out mid pod, um, it's because I have a prize picks going during Monday Night Football. I have a couple different entries, but the one I'm watching closely is I have three squares. It's Jamar Chase. I have less than 79.5 receiving yards. And then I have Joe Burrow less than 239.5 passing yards. And I'm really banking on Joe Burrow being banged up to the point that he's not effective. And then I've got Kyron Williams, the Rams running back, more than 62.5 rushing yards. So I'm very dialed because I feel really good about this entry.
Okay. Love that for you. I got one going as well. Let me pull it back up here. Mike Evans more than 57.5. We're almost a halftime. He's at 13. Not feeling awesome.
Not great, but he's one big catch away. You're good. I like where you're at. You're in a good spot.
I went total touchdowns for Baker Mayfield includes passing, rushing, and receiving. I would not bank on him getting a receiving touchdown, but I went more than 1.5. Also not looking good. And then Devontae Smith, I went more than 61.5 receiving yards. He's at 16 at the moment, and we're at the 2-minute warning, and the Eagles look like they're driving. I think they just got a pick. And Jalen Hurts is out here running the ball and not doing me any favors. So anyway,
yikes.
That leads us in since we mentioned the Eagles.
Yeah.
Sort of the shoddy start to this game for them. I know they're up 10-3 as we started recording this, but I even had a similar thought going back to that Thursday night game against Minnesota, where they were a little bit one-dimensional, and the passing game was certainly a little bit sloppy. And I just wonder, like, does it feel like the 49ers are clearly the best team in the NFC, if not the NFL right now? And I know there are things happening in the AFC, and we'll talk about those too. But in terms of, like, I think it's pretty clear through 3 games, or at least 2.5 for the Eagles, that I would say the Niners are looking a little bit better and a little bit more sharp right now.
Yeah, I don't want to rule out, because the Eagles are super talented. We know that. The Cowboys have a lot of talent. We know that. Although, do you trust a Mike McCarthy team in January? TBD. But, well, you don't. But my thing with the 49ers is they are definitely, to me, without question, in the NFC, playing the best football right now. And I don't know if it's particularly close. And like I said, that's not to say that the Eagles won't eventually finish this year with 14 wins and be the 1 seed, or the Cowboys could do the same. But through 3 weeks, I think the 49ers have just consistently been really excellent on both sides of the ball, whereas Philly's kind of had an up and down start offensively. And then you have Dallas going in and whatever the hell happened in Arizona, and they lose to the Cardinals. Trevon Diggs is now hurt, their star cornerback. So I have a hard time finding reasons that the 49ers are not the best team in the NFC right now.
Yeah, and I think some of that comes down to Jalen Hurts. And look, maybe he has a huge second half down in Tampa, and we've come out of this looking really stupid when this pod comes out on on Tuesday. But coming into Monday night's game, 6.5 yards per attempt, 181 yards per game. He's completing a high rate of his passes, but he only has 1 touchdown pass and 1 interception through 2 games coming in. He just threw another touchdown pass before we started. But I think, and you and Nick were talking about this in the group chat, the expectations for Hurts were super high this year. And I think, yourself included and myself included, like, I didn't know that he was necessarily going to be like an MVP candidate, but I was like, okay, you look at the landscape of the NFC, this guy feels like he should be one of the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks, like, unquestionably, right? In the NFC at least, and potentially knocking on the door to be in that discussion when you open it up to the guys in the AFC too. But he just hasn't been that guy yet. And his QBR coming into tonight, 29th in the NFL. I know QBR obviously isn't everything. But I just wonder, like, is this a slow start for him and he's going to pick it back up? Is it a regression to the mean? type thing happening, where maybe last year everything that went well for them wasn't necessarily sustainable. Where are you at on Jalen Hurts and what we've seen so far? Because ultimately, to me, like, I'm not going to say Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, but I will say Brock Purdy has played better for the 3 games that we've seen so far than Jalen Hurts. Would you say that's fair?
He's helped the offense more for sure. And yeah, I was all aboard the Jalen Hurts train, man. I was like, he's my MVP pick. I think the Eagles are going to be awesome again because of the ascension for him into that elite tier. I was just all in. And then he's just looked very pedestrian. And if he had had this start to the season last year, the Eagles would have been getting killed. And there would be discussions about what are they going to do at quarterback, long term, because, Jalen Hurts is going into year 3 and he's clearly not it. So we saw it last year. We saw the kind of breakout year, but we talk about this on the podcast all the time. It's not about what can you do in 1 year. It's what can you sustain. And so far, Hurts isn't sustaining it. Now, I will say that they lost their offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, this offseason. He's now the head coach in Indy. So it is a new offensive coordinator. And I do think there's a little bit of a learning curve and maybe some growing pains. So it wouldn't surprise me if by week 10, Hurts kind of looks like the player that we thought he would look like. And this is just a slow start. But also, it's not off the table that, you know what? Hey, last year was just kind of an anomaly, had a really great year. And, maybe he gets there again, but it's like an uphill fight to get to that level the rest of the way. And we're just going to kind of see him regress. So I don't think that's off the table, but I don't think I'm ready to pull the plug on Jalen Hurts being awesome just yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Eagles just turned it over right before halftime. So this is confirming some priors here.
I take back everything I just said. Cut it all.
No, I mean, I think, look, I just think when you talk about, like, what's the biggest question everybody had about the 49ers going into the season? It was Brock Purdy. Right. And look,
well, for me, it was defensive end depth, but I'm a football guy. So
it was that third tight end spot.
You and I talk about it all the time. Yeah. Why is nobody talking about Ross Dwelly's playing time?
Oh, we have a bad Jalen Hurts interception that just happened.
Yikes.
In the I don't know if it was in the red zone, but it looked like it was deep in Bucs territory. All right, that confirms our priors. Jalen Hurts not any good. Let's move on. No, I'm just kidding. The point here, like,
can the 49ers trade Sam Darnold to the Eagles?
Ooh, should they?
And then sign Ian Book off the Patriots practice squad.
No, but I think when you talk about Brock Purdy and just like overall efficiency, or like even like success rate, right? Brock Purdy's 9th in the NFL in success rate, and that's success rate, and this is per Pro Football Reference, a successful pass gains at least 40% of the yards required on first down, 60% of the yards required on second down, and 100% on third and fourth down. Denominator is pass attempts plus time sack. So it's basically like a ratio, and like how often is your quarterback having successful plays. Tua Tagovailoa leads the league with a 63.7% success rate. Lamar Jackson second, Justin Herbert third, Geno Smith fourth, Jared Goff fifth. Hey, Jimmy G sixth. Maybe we should start throwing out success rate. No, just kidding. Matthew Stafford is at 50%. Patrick Mahomes is at 50%. Brock Purdy, 9th in the NFL, 49.5% success rate. And look, it's fair to say, particularly when you talk about the first half or even the first quarter of Thursday night's Giants game, that the success the 49ers offense had was in large part because of yards after the catch. Like the 49ers had more yards after the catch in that game than the Giants had total yards on offense, period. So Brock Purdy absolutely benefits from the supporting cast around him. But again, and like if you're not watching JT O'Sullivan's breakdowns of any quarterbacks, let alone Brock Purdy, like you definitely should.
They're very good. Super entertaining.
Shout out to JTO. Maybe we can try to get him back on the pod, although maybe the appearance fee's gone up since the season started. But I would just say, like, there are still elements of Brock Purdy's game where he's playing high level football.
Yeah.
And one of the things you hear from the quarterback gurus who know far more about this stuff than I do is that, like, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, or at least one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, at deciphering where where he needs to be hot. In essence, like where the blitz is coming from and how he needs to get rid of the ball quickly. I think a lot of people say, and JTO says this too, that like he is one of the best young quarterbacks at the league in terms of decision making and mental processing and reading the field. And these are just things that really show up, like, you know, the touchdown to Ronnie Bell. He's hot off the left side, and then Brock Purdy's making the throw like a step before Bell even breaks to the outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like
Throwing
anticipating.
with anticipation. Yeah.
And it's just, there are some things he does. It's like really high level stuff. And it's almost like we grade quarterbacks, not you and I, but like collectively when we talk about quarterbacks, we set the bar so high for 49ers in particular, because it's like, oh, they need quarterback play that's good enough to win the Super Bowl. But sometimes when we think about it in those terms, I think we forget, like, oh yeah, this is a guy who hasn't even started a full season yet. This is a guy who's in his second year in the NFL.
And I think there's a tendency, because of where he was drafted and because of his skill set, to focus on the negative throws and to focus on the bad throws. I find myself doing this too. Is he'll miss the other night in the first quarter. First throw against the Giants was a slant to Debo, and he just sailed it behind him. And that sticks out so much to me, I think, because just inherently, my brain is like, this is the 262nd pick. He's undersized, doesn't have a great arm. At some point, the other shoe is going to drop, and we're going to see why he went last in the draft. But in the first quarter, he had maybe 3 or 4 throws that he probably wants back. But then you get into the second, third, and fourth quarter, and there are more throws that show a high-level quarterback than the low-level one on those earlier bad throws. It's just that the bad ones stick out more to me, and I think to other people. And that's where I think a little bit of the disconnect comes in, where you can tell I'm going to talk about Stephen Ruiz from The Ringer, friend of the show, hates Brock Purdy. Is just out on Brock Purdy as a quarterback. I shouldn't say hates, but he's just out on him as a quarterback. Has him ranked like 29th in his quarterback rankings and says he stinks and all that. But I have a hard time thinking that's the case when Dan Orlovsky, JT O'Sullivan are talking about all these like little things that Purdy does well, and that we see on a week to week basis now for, what is it, 8-9 starts in the regular season plus the playoffs. He's a good player, man.
I think like what Steven tends to do, and maybe this is a broader discussion about punditry as a whole, but like there are a lot of people who look for like the superhuman trait. Right. Like Justin Herbert looks like he was made in a quarterback lab, right? Lamar Jackson is a human joystick. Patrick Mahomes just makes ridiculous throws after ridiculous.
Might be the most talented quarterback of all time.
Yeah. And so, you know, when you go through like quarterback rankings lists and you look at what all these dudes are great at, it's like, well, a lot of them have all world arm talent or just like physically impressive, et cetera, et cetera. And you just don't get any of that with Brock Purdy. He's not an eye test dude. He's not, I mean, he was a 7th round pick, like for legitimate reasons. Like he's just doesn't have the strongest arm, isn't the biggest guy, but you just watch him play quarterback and the nuances of the position. And like some of those nuances are so specific that you can't even catch them when you watch the TV broadcast, right? Yep. Like you need to see, you don't see how early he starts to throw to Ronnie Bell on the touchdown pass against the Giants until you see the all 22 and you're like, damn, he was staring right in the face of pressure, starting to make this throw a second before Ronnie Bell even cuts outside. And it was right on the money. And there were a few of those, you know, like the pass to George Kittle, which really, there was one on the sideline to George Kittle in the first quarter of that game. I think it was on the second drive where it was like,
that was so sick.
That was like a better, that was what, that seemed like what sort of normalized Brock Purdy's night a little bit. Yeah. Because he seemed to start out a little scattershot when it came to his accuracy. But I just, you know, I think, like, you know, I've said it before. I just think at some point the rest of the league is gonna, or the rest of the punditry is gonna catch on. Or like, no, this guy's like actually doing it. Like it's not a watered down version of some offense that's not sustainable. Like, yeah, there are bubble screens, and he definitely benefits from the bubble screens and yards after the catch and everything like that. Every 49ers quarterback has, but there's also some high level stuff going on that if you watch really closely beyond just, watch more tape, not trying to be the watch more tape guy, but I think it applies to Brock Purdy because he doesn't have those physical traits that really wow you in any way. Like you have to watch him really closely. And when you do, you see like, man, he's actually doing some like pretty high level things.
I think if that's your mindset with their quarterback, with Purdy, I don't know how you have anybody besides the Niners as the top team in the NFC. And I think if your take on it is, well, Brock Purdy's just not good enough, and imagine what the offense would look like with Justin Herbert. Like, okay, fine, but he's not that. He's just not that like physically talented. But there are so many other things he's good at, and the offense is operating at such a high level. Like this is something that we've talked about before. We talked about this a little bit with the Rams game, and we talked about it at our live show too. But if Brock Purdy being awful is the 49ers going at 5.7 yards per play and going for 441 yards and 30 points, if that's what a bad Brock Purdy game looks like, then okay, yeah. So be it then. Fine. Then a bad night for the 49ers quarterback means they're scoring 30.
Yeah.
Okay. If that's what it is, then
yeah. And like I said,
don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you at that point.
But I'm more concerned about the right side of the offensive line keeping Brock Purdy healthy than I am about Brock Purdy playing well enough.
Yeah.
I do want to zoom out a little bit too, because we have to talk about the Cowboys Cardinals game a little bit, and just even the results of it and what it means, because one, the Cardinals we assumed would just be one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the entire NFL this season. They beat the Cowboys 28-16. Cardinals ran for 220 yards on 30 carries. They averaged 7.4 yards per carry against what we thought was, one of, if not the best defenses in the NFL. And I know they lost Trayvon Diggs, but that's not a reason to be allowing 7.4 yards per carry to,
it's also, Conner. There were so many, their lack of urgency at the end of that game. They're running the ball and content with 4 yards a carry, as they enter the red zone and the clock ticks down under 5 minutes. Like, you need 2 scores, man. And then they finally throw it, and Dak's throwing a pick. Like that game, there were so many disasters that went beyond Trevon Diggs in that game.
And it feels emblematic of the conversation we've had multiple times about Mike McCarthy.
Yes. Who took on play calling duties this year, by the way. He took on more in-game responsibilities.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are super talented. I think Dak Prescott is a good quarterback on any given day. Like he can be a potentially great quarterback, but also on any given day he can just be super mediocre. I like their skill guys, obviously. You like Tony Pollard, you like CeeDee Lamb, and you love all the guys they have on defense. Even without Diggs, I think they still are a super formidable team in the NFC. But like 13 penalties, like against Arizona, like just being, I don't know, man, just allowing them to run all over you in a situation. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know who they have next week. I know they have the Niners in 2 weeks, and that should be an amazing game. But like, it's just tough. And I know I'm trying to figure out if it's one of those things where, man, this is just an early season game. Sometimes these games happen, like the Niners losing to Denver and Chicago last year, right? 2 teams that didn't end up being very good, and it was just sort of an early season weird results. Sometimes they happen early in the season. But like, it just, every time the Cowboys lose or every time they have a bad performance, I'm going to keep going back to the Mike McCarthy thing, because it's happened twice in a row in the playoffs against the 49ers in particular. where Mike McCarthy is just getting out coached. And it's hard to look at them and be like, and have confidence that just because they did what they did to the two New York teams in week 1 and week 2, that, okay, we should anoint them as a better team than the team that knocked them out of the playoffs the last 2 years.
I was there through 2 weeks. It's like, man, defense looked incredible week 1. Offense looks incredible week 2. Maybe this is the year they put it together. And then they face plant in week 3 in a game where they were 12.5-point favorites. And I think Arizona's honestly a little bit better than we thought they'd be going into the year. But still, Dallas should roll them. And it wasn't like there was a turnover here and a weird play there, and then Arizona, kicked a field goal to win it as time expired. They dominated that game. And that's where it's like, okay, these questions I had about Dallas in the playoffs are just rearing their heads now in week 3. And maybe it's a weird loss. Maybe it's like the Niners losing in Denver last year, a game they had no business losing, or in Chicago. And, like I said earlier, maybe the Cowboys wind up winning 13 games and they're in the hunt for the 1 seed. But based on what you see in week 3 and based on the history of Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott and just that group, I'm ready to sell them at the drop of a hat. And they dropped the hat loudly in Arizona. So I'm just out on them. Also, sneaky thing, probably a good thing for the 49ers.
Yeah.
That Arizona did that to Dallas because it puts them on notice a little bit. And you don't get that overlooking the Cardinals looking ahead to Dallas situation. Anyways.
Yeah, no, I do think, and we'll talk about that game as the week goes on. I do wonder if there's going to be an element of human nature, like look ahead to Dallas. But, the Niners are the highest scoring team in the NFC through 3 weeks. Their point differential is plus 48 through 3 weeks, which is actually the exact same as the Cowboys, because the Cowboys had that shellacking against the Giants on the road in week 1. But I think, like, given what we've seen and what we've talked about, sort of the shortcomings, I think, with Philadelphia and Dallas, which seems like the main competitors for supremacy in the conference. Because you look at, like, I don't know who else, Tampa Bay don't really feel super confident that they're going to be that they're going to be there at the end of the year for a deep playoff run. Like the Packers, I don't know. There just hasn't been another like really big standout team in the NFC, maybe aside from the top 3 that we thought would be there, frankly, coming into the season. So I think we can comfortably say that at least through 3 weeks, the 49ers are the best team in the NFC.
Yeah.
But if we zoom out and go to the entire NFL, then it becomes a much more interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Because you have the Miami Dolphins, who scored 70 points on the Broncos of Denver on Sunday.
On Sean Payton's Broncos of Denver, mind you.
Man. So this is one of those things where it's like, man, Miami's really good. Like, really good. They have a ton of skill guys. Their defense is solid. Mike McDaniel obviously like has that team cooking, and Tua's playing out of his mind. And Raheem Mostert, 4 combined touchdowns on Sunday?
Raheem Mostert, check this out. I'm going to do the fantasy football thing, but it's only to highlight how good of an offensive performance it was for Miami. Raheem Mostert had 142 total yards and 4 touchdowns and was not the highest scoring fantasy running back on his team.
That is wild.
Devon Achane, 233 total yards, 4 touchdowns. They had 2 running backs score 4 touchdowns, and it wasn't even all of their touchdowns.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
That doesn't make any sense, really.
It honestly, every stat I see from it looks less and less believable, but it's still the case. The Dolphins scored more points on Sunday than the Broncos have scored all year.
Yeah. So the Dolphins had 71 plays. Right. They ran 71 plays. They had 9 third downs.
They averaged 10.2 yards per play. They averaged a first down.
It's wild. So is it one of those? Yeah.
Here's my Miami is fraudulent take.
Uh-huh.
Their strength of schedule, 222.
I don't know what that means.
It means their opponents have a combined
Oh,
winning percentage of
Okay.
222.
Got it. Yeah, that's fair. So let's talk about Miami. I haven't been super locked into Miami just yet. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves in that game. This does feel like it has a potential, if Tua stays healthy, to be like a historically good offense, given all the speed that they have and given it's Mike McDaniel pulling the strings. So I have complete faith that like this isn't, like this is real.
Me
It's
too.
not.
Me too.
This doesn't feel fraudulent. It doesn't feel like, oh, like, by November teams are going to be figuring out how to defend them. It's like sometimes if you have a really smart play caller and play designer and your dudes are just way faster than everyone else, you're just not going to be able to stop them.
That's my favorite part about Miami is Mike McDaniel is one of the brightest offensive minds in the league, and they're always going to have like a schematic advantage. But then also when that fails, their dudes are just fast as shit. And they're just going to be sometimes in football being bigger / faster is just the best course of action. And the Dolphins are just always going to be faster. They did that Sunday, by the way, without Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't, they're not going to score 70 points a game, obviously. But I don't know that there's a just ready-made solution outside of, Tua's lack of availability for opposing defenses. And even then, on Mike White.
They have a very interesting game next week at Buffalo, who's coming off a big win against Washington.
Buffalo looks good too.
Buffalo looked really good for the first time, I feel like, in a while, or at least the first time this season where you felt like, okay, that's the Bills that we thought they would be.
Buffalo lost in week 1 at New York, obviously. We all remember. Yeah. And they still have a point differential of plus 56. And they lost one of their 3 games.
Yeah. Well, so that sets up for a very interesting game where we'll learn a lot about both teams, I would say, when the Dolphins play Buffalo on Sunday. But I think it's fair to say at this point, like, I mean, can we call Miami the best team in the AFC right now? Or are you still like it's got to be the Chiefs until
they were my preseason? They were my preseason Super Bowl pick, so I'm rocking with Miami, and I'm buying them. Like I don't want to. Not that I'm doubting the Chiefs, but I'm just buying what Miami is doing as being a little bit better than what Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and whatever wide receiver that they have is going to be capable of doing.
Kadarius Toney.
That's him. Sky Moore.
You're probably discounting the Taylor Swift factor in this, but I'll let that slide. No,
hey, hang on. It's prerequisite. The NFL sent out a notice if you're going to do NFL content, you have to do this week. Sorry for missing the Taylor Swift thing. I'll shake it off.
Jesus.
There, look, I'm doing NFL content now. I'm making a Taylor Swift pun. I'm so creative. I'm creative and original.
Right now, my mind's just in a blank space after you make that. Joke.
Nice, dude.
All right.
Now you're official. We'll send this to the NFL, and they'll be thrilled that we made the same 2 jokes that every single broadcaster has made in the last 24 hours.
Did you see the NFL? I think their Twitter. I think this is real. Maybe I should double check before.
The Travis Kelce, how much shit is going his way?
No. The NFL's official Twitter account. Let me just. Yeah. The NFL's official Twitter account is NFL parentheses Taylor's version. The official Twitter account of the league.
It's just honestly, maybe they're actually in love, maybe, or in like, and they're gonna fall in love, and it's gonna be an incredible relationship, and that's what it is. I hope that's the case, and I hope they're happy. But this has big like, hey, we can profit off of making this a thing vibes.
Yeah.
Like we can both Taylor Swift can tap into a portion of America that had not caught on to her music yet with a bunch of NFL fans. and Travis Kelce can see the already increased jersey sales and increased IG followers and exposure of being quote unquote dating Taylor Swift. I love it for both of them.
Listen,
I also love that we don't have to like cover it. Can you imagine?
I'm
she's
not.
dating
I'm
George
not
Kittle?
mad. Yeah, I'm not mad that this is not a Niners thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny to see, like, so there are a couple points I want to make. First of all, I hope it works out for them. I hope they really do like each other. I hope it's fun. I hope they're enjoying each other's company and all of that, and they're all doing it for the right reasons. I think it's really funny to see, and also like she just had the most successful tour ever, or is like in the
Ever.
middle of the most successful tour ever, and it's not even close.
Her popularity.
She
whether
doesn't
you-
need
Go ahead.
she doesn't need Travis Kelce to like up her profile at the moment.
Right.
Like if anything, Travis Kelce is benefiting from this a whole lot more than Taylor Swift is.
Yeah. Without question.
So I think she's there because like she genuinely likes him. Like they're actually like dating or an item or whatever. But there's a significant portion of people say like nobody cares. It's like, man, nobody cares. Travis Kelce's gained over 300,000 social media followers and has seen a 400% increase in merchandise sales. This is according to Joe Pompliano on Twitter. Top 5 jersey sales in the NFL right now. Travis Kelce.
Maybe you like Taylor Swift or maybe you don't.
People
But
care.
If you're of the mind that Taylor Swift is some niche thing that teenagers like and that's it, you are fucking delusional.
It's like Michael Jackson when Thriller came out and being like, nah, no one's really buying into this thing.
Right. Right. And I'm not going to debate whether she's as popular as Michael Jackson when Thriller came out. I wasn't alive. But the fact that she is a global musical icon, man.
Yeah.
Hey, whether you like the music or not, maybe you don't care, but billions of people do.
People definitely care. All right. So anyway, let's not get too far off topic.
Sorry, it's been dominating my timeline. It's impossible to talk about the NFL without.
And there's some fun memes. Like I say, like let people enjoy themselves. We don't have to like take a big dump on everything that other people like. We don't have to. But if you don't want to talk about Taylor, you don't have to talk about Taylor. But let's just like, in terms of the Chiefs, I'm with you on Miami, and that through the first 3 weeks they have been the best team in the AFC, just with how the offenses looked and how dominant they've been.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think like if these two teams, if we were to fast forward and we have all the information we have through the first 3 weeks, and these two teams are playing in the AFC Championship game in late January, I'd still pick Kansas City because. And it's not really more complicated for me than just like they've been there. They've been to 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years.
Sure.
Been to 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years.
No, that's
have
fair.
to,
that's fair.
And we know Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce can get it done in the playoffs.
This might sound stupid. This might come across as dumb. I don't necessarily disagree, but I also don't think that necessarily means that Kansas City is better than Miami.
No, for sure. For sure. I'm just saying that pelts on the wall, like it's that type of thing for me. But it could be that like the Chiefs go 11-6 and the Dolphins go 16-1 or 15-2, at which point I can't tell you that I think Kansas City's better, but I would still like I it's just one of those things where it's like I need to see the Dolphins do it in the playoffs before I feel good about picking them over a team that's won multiple Super Bowls.
Okay. Sure.
While admitting that Miami has been better through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that's where I'm kind of at.
So Niners, Dolphins right now. Who do you think's better?
Oh. It's really hard to say anything other than Miami after they just put up 70 points in an NFL football game. I don't know. Like they're I'm having a hard time because part of the words that want to come out of my mouth are I don't have a good possible solution for Miami's offense, but I would say the same thing about the 49ers offense. It's just so I don't know, man. I think it's Miami. Maybe it's recency bias. I'm going off Miami because they scored 70 points.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to decide how much I would let last year's game in December where Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt in the first quarter and Brock Purdy comes in and the Niners still win. Like, should that game color our opinions of how we view these teams now? Because that's like, I'm like, well, the Dolphins are better, but like the Niners also beat them, like a pretty similar version of this team last year, like beat them pretty handily.
I'm not buying that.
Okay.
I'm not buying that. This is a better version of the Dolphins.
Okay.
Also a better version of the Niners, but man, yeah, I don't know. I'd be fascinated to see how the 49ers will go about defending Miami's offense. And if they just kind of said, hey, Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, we're going to rush 4 and just drop 7 and play it out that way.
We still haven't seen like 100% Nick Bosa yet, it feels like, right?
Yeah.
We saw something closer to it, but we haven't seen like defensive player of the year, like completely dominant edge force Nick Bosa yet.
Yeah.
Javon Hargrave
and he's still been really good.
I think Javon Hargrave, I think PFF had it. Maybe it wasn't PFF, but somebody had that Javon Hargrave was like second in the NFL in overall pressures.
Wow, man, the sack he had against the Giants was so funny.
Yeah,
it looked like a coach standing in as an offensive lineman who was just trying not to get punched in the chest by Javon Hargrave, and just did the turnstile thing and just kind of stepped to the side.
Was it the Rams game that he almost sacked Matt Stafford on a running play?
Yes. Yeah. It feels like he's done that once a week, at least, where he's just in the backfield before anything can happen. Really good player, and I'm excited to see what the defensive line looks like once Nick Bosa is playing like Nick Bosa again, which I'm expecting here in the next week or two. Now that he's had a few games under his belt.
Yeah, so the Niners are coming off sort of the mini bye. They get Arizona, which is obviously a very favorable opponent. And Brandon Ayuk, I think, probably plays. We'll know more as the week goes on, but he was close-ish to playing Thursday night with that shoulder issue. I would imagine the extended time off made it a little bit easier, or will make it a little bit easier on him going into this game. I don't know. Is there anything else to touch on when it comes to the 49ers? So ultimately getting back to it, it feels like the Niners or Dolphins are the best. They're the best two teams in the NFL.
They're playing the best through 3 weeks for sure. It looks a little different, but maybe, now I'm leaning Niners because they've been more consistently good through 3 weeks. The Dolphins are like 1 or 2 plays away from losing to the Chargers in week 1.
Yeah.
And they're 1 or 2 plays away from losing to New England last week.
And the Niners haven't gotten to play the Broncos.
Right. Yeah, they've had to play such juggernauts as the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants.
Rams aren't bad.
No,
Rams are frisky.
That's it. Like I said, it's total. If you had asked me going into Sunday who the best team in the NFL was, I would not have even considered the Dolphins. I'd have been like, yeah, no, they're top 5 right now, but it's not. They're not the best.
When they came up Saturday night at the live event, it was like they might be one of the best teams in the AFC. And then they put up 70 points on the Broncos, and you're like, all right, we have to take them. Like,
yeah, no, I'm changing my answer.
Okay.
I think it's 49ers through 3 weeks.
Okay. So I'm with you, but it's less about the 3 weeks and more about just the track record. Just like we've seen this team win a bunch of playoff games. We haven't seen the Dolphins win in the playoffs yet.
Okay, then. I don't then put the Bengals ahead of Miami too.
No, but combining with what we've seen the 3 weeks, like
I've seen Matt Stafford win a Super Bowl. I'm putting the Rams above the Niners.
I'm not saying that the first 3 weeks of the season have not mattered. I'm saying as like a tiebreaker.
No, I get it.
I'm looking at track record.
That's totally fair. No, I just for me in a vacuum through 3 weeks, the Niners been more consistently good. Maybe their peak hasn't been as high, but their plateau has been, their floor has been higher.
Jalen Hurts just missed his receiver wide open on a
Jalen Hurts on fraud watch right now.
Short touchdown. I mean, they're about to go up 20-3 if they score here.
Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Niners
barn burner in Cincy with the Rams up 6-3.
Oh, they're gonna do the push in sneak. I'm out on the push in sneak. Oh, he didn't get in.
It's gonna. It didn't work.
It's gonna be fourth and 1. This is great podcasting content. I mean, they're about to go up either 16-3. I'm guessing they're gonna do the push in sneak again on 4th down. I'm out on the push in sneak like that. Like ban it. I'm out. It's not good football. I feel
like it's football at its essence. It's just dudes running into dudes.
Yeah, I just don't feel like
massive dude.
Yeah, they scored. All right, it's going to be 20-3. They did the push sneak again. I don't know. If one play works so decidedly well, and they're like, you could have all the defense right there to try to stop it, and it still doesn't work. I just feel like if we outlawed the other players pushing him, like at the line of scrimmage, like if you push a guy, like there's a catch downfield and then he's trying to fight for the first down and then you push him, I feel like that's the integrity of the game is not at stake. Whereas like you just have 3 dudes pushing the quarterback over the line of scrimmage. I don't know. I don't find it like compelling.
All right. I don't have strong feelings on
more teams should do it, and then the NFL outlaw it. When we get Brock Purdy getting pushed in the end zone every time, then teams will be like, all right, we're tired of this. Anything else? Okay, so the Niners are the best team in the NFL. That's the conclusion we've come to through 3 weeks. We'll see how well this ages. Although the Eagles are up 17 points on the road in Tampa, who's also undefeated. So maybe this will, maybe Eagles fans will get in the comments. Be a little salty on this one.
Can't wait.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Subscribe, rate, and review. Check us out on YouTube. Search Candlestick Chronicles podcast on YouTube. Give the channel a subscribe, a like, thumbs up.
You don't do stars. You don't do stars on.
Oh yeah, I was
doing a 5-star.
No, 5 stars is for podcasts. We're obviously still on Apple's podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. So subscribe, rate, and review. Check us out on YouTube. Shout out to our sponsors. Shout out to everyone who came out on Saturday night. It was a lot of fun to see everybody. Hopefully we can do it again next year and maybe even sooner. We'll see. But yeah, man, it was a great time.
Yeah. Really
tired from the weekend. Tired, just exhausted from the weekend.
Yeah, man. I can't do it like I used to.
Getting old. All right, we will see everybody later in the week. Talk about Niners Cardinals coming up. See ya.
Can't wait.